welcome to Basketball on Figueroa, the only podcast breaking down the Lakers, Clippers, and Sparks. I'm your host, Edwin Garcia, and joining me today is my co-host, Dar-E-N Viziri, aka Dime Dropper. Dime, how'd you like that Lakers beatdown that you got on Sunday?
Beatdown, one possession game, came down to the end. One of the best games the Lakers played all season. One of the worst games the Clippers played all season. Not coincidence that the Lakers played well, but it is what it is. It's just one regular season game. A little frustrating, though, that this run that we've been on, we can't beat the Lakers, who we've gotten the better of for the last decade. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, it was a fun game. Like I said, maybe it was the homer in me. Sure, you can. I'll lay. I'll take the blame for that. But this team kind of reminds me of a. I don't think they're good enough to be like this, but they remind me of a student who knows they can just get it up for the test anyway, and they're like, it's fine. I'm BSing. The teacher's mad, but you know what? When test time comes, I'm gonna get an A because I know how the math formula works. So. Yeah, I'm being obnoxious and destructive, and I'm not doing all my homework. But when test day comes, I'm going to get them all right because I know what I'm doing. And I won't be acting up that day because I know it's not the day to act up. And that's the Lakers in the in-season tournament. That's been the Lakers, in the playoffs when people thought, oh, the Grizzlies are just too deep and yada, yada, yada. And like, oh, the Warriors are going to, it's like, no, these guys, they're legit. And I definitely, like I said, I don't think this team's so good they can just do that. I do not think they are. But I think they might think they are. And I think they also know, hey, we got LeBron AD. When they're locked and engaged, it's just really hard. You're going to have to bring your A game when they bring their A game. Because as we've seen, when they've had those high moments, they can get pretty up there. And yeah, I mean, LeBron got way up there. I don't think Podcast P knew he was going to go up there with that dunk. I was taken aback. I was talking about that dunk today with some reporters, and we all agreed like no one thought he was going to dunk that ball. And then he just went up, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, I think he's gonna he's gonna take this the whole way. And James Harden, of course, went viral with his expression from behind and the fans and everything. But yeah, it was an incredible game. People have been clamoring for a Lakers Clippers playoff series since Kawhi got to the Clippers. It's been the talk of the town. As you know, it's never happened. Not even the play-in. So we still haven't got that like. You and me, let's go. Winner with some high stakes. Not quite yet, but who knows? We'll see how things lay out this year. I think the best case scenario for anyone who's dreaming of a LA versus LA hallway showdown would probably be the Clippers a 3 seed, the Lakers a 6 seed. That seems something that could realistically happen in the first round. Other than that, it just seems like it's so hard to pair and for them to all win their games to get to that point. But to me, that's the closest I can see. To having a Lakers Clippers kind of crypto showdown from the game. Obviously, your team lost, my team won. You talked about the best team in basketball, and all that stuff. Did you see anything that you felt was concerning, given this is one of those marquee matchups against the quote unquote top team? Did you see anything that you're like, it makes me rethink this or this about the team, or was it just, hey, someone had to win, someone had to lose, and you were just on the wrong side of it?
A little bit more, someone had to win, someone had to lose. I will say, though, when you put size on our guys, size that can move a little bit, Kawhi still has, even though he's looked a little bit quicker this season, still not a guy that gets to the rim a ton. But the thing is, even though LeBron, he did a very good job on him, I will say, one of his better one-on-one jobs this season. A lot of those shots, Kawhi hits those, like the mid-range contested shots is a layup for him. He just had a bad night as well. So against stars, it's a make or miss kind of thing. So Harden also got a ton of good looks and he couldn't hit a shot. But you know what I'm thinking on that stuff. Like, oh God, Harden, you got to come through in the playoffs, bro. You got to do the bare minimum. Yeah. But I was fine with Paul George. I think we at times went away from him a bit. Westbrook, I thought, played too hard. Like he was like trying to prove a point a little bit too hard. Unnecessary threes. And then Norman Powell, I mean, he made those big threes in the fourth quarter, but Norman Powell 3 for 12, Russell Westbrook 3 for 9, Harden 4 for 13, Kawhi 6 for 17. I thought our defense was fine, but offensively we just didn't make shots. And I think the Lakers did have one of the better defensive games. I also think that the matchup with the Lakers has gotten worse because you guys now have a good amount of wings, and the Clippers have lost their wings to throw at LeBron. LeBron, these last two games, has had two of his better games against the Clippers in a very long time, even predating his Laker days. He had some not so great games, I think, the last year or two in Cleveland against us, but yeah, these last two games have been tough since we lost Batum and Covington. He seems like when it's not Kawhi guarding him, he's getting easier shots. But I think it was more about our offense being bad. And also, you got to give a shout out to the Laker role players. How about Torian Prince's big three right before the 1 minute mark? I mean, that was huge. But yeah, if it's a Zubats, masterclass ruined because he was amazing.
Ooh. Yeah, he was amazing. And every time he made a basket, I was like, man, he's killing it. I watched the replay because I was doing some. Funny enough, doing some more Lakers coverage, so I couldn't watch it live. Also, that's my day off, so I try not to, dabble. Then I always rewatch in the morning before I actually write stories on those games. So I rewatched it. That's exactly what I did. I watched it in the morning. I kept an eye a little bit. I was kind of scoreboard watching while I was doing some other stuff, and yeah, when I rewatched it, that was the first thing. Obviously I already heard about Zubac's big game because everyone was talking about it, on social media. But then when you really saw it, you're like, man, again and again, getting key rebounds, getting key buckets. He's getting contested. He's still finishing. And it's like, wow. I mean, Zoo was he was on one. And, I've been a big Zoo fan since his Laker days. And although I'm not rooting for him that day, I'm like, yeah, this is what I knew he could be. Give him some time, give him some space to grow. We talked about that in the last pod. And yeah, I agree with you. The Lakers, Clippers, especially in the playoffs, it becomes more like boxing where like the matchups make the fight, right? And I'm not saying the Clippers are in trouble necessarily, but when they play the Lakers, that's not a good matchup for them. You got two elite players. They're very big. That's one of the strengths the Clippers have. So it's like, well, my strength and your strength, they start to cancel out. And then, like you said, it starts to become, are our guys going to hit shots? Is Harden going to step up? And then, like you said, you get a little nervous about that. Russell, can you imagine a whole week, 2 weeks of Russell having to deal with, it's going to be a lot of mental stuff. Like, can you deal with, this is like the team that, you ended on sour notes on. Can you not let that become a narrative where you're getting ejected or you're just doing too much, like you said? And next thing you know, it's starting to get to you. The chemistry's thrown off. You're down 2-1. Harden's 2 for 17 from the field. And you're like, oh, it's happening. Like we're crumbling. Like that's the recipe. And not too many teams can do that to the Clippers. I can think of just a couple in the West, the Lakers, the Nuggets. When it comes to like size like that, can you think of another team that really can give them problems? I think those are the main two when it comes to purely like having 6'7", 6'8" wings that can disrupt them.
Yeah, absolutely. And even Christian Wood, man, we talked about in the last episode, it looked like Ham was going to start giving him more minutes. He's passed the test with flying colors, and he's had some good defensive moments. But I think Anthony Davis was obviously, LeBron as well, one of his better defensive games of the season. But Anthony Davis, his impact, just the way he protects the rim and the way he was able to switch on to Paul George and James Harden at times, mainly Paul George in that fourth quarter, and stop him one-on-one was amazing. But yeah, it's still also some weird stuff happening at the end of that game. Kawhi Leonard going out of the game with 3.5 minutes left. Or with 2:47 left with a
minutes restrictions or something like that, which that didn't make sense to me given the game. And you need to pencil that in if you knew the game was going to be close at least by the third quarter. Like doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no announcement before the game, no nothing. It's just like I thought that was stuff we're going away from this year. I thought we had taken that mystery Kawhi out stuff, being taken out of games, load management, that kind of stuff out of the equation. So that was a little bit weird. Thankfully, they bounced back. We'll talk about that later. But that was very frustrating to me because we did have some poor possessions offensively executing after that, even though Kawhi didn't have a very good game. It's still, you want your best player on the court.
Yeah, 100%. You want your best player on the court. And yeah, that's something that, I don't think it'll be an issue in the playoffs. But yes, like you said, it kind of became a surprise. And it's like, okay, well then again, if you're on a minutes restriction, that's fine. But in a close game, like you want to get those reps in and then he had to sit more in the third or sit more in the second or like you got to figure that out because they should have known the game was going to be close. At least, like I said, by the third quarter, you see that no one's really, getting a big enough edge. You need to pencil that in. So that's on Ty Lue, I think, if anything. All right, so let's go back to the beginning of the week. You went viral with your Phoenix Suns.
Did I though? I don't think I don't think didn't pop off like we thought.
I thought it popped off pretty good, but maybe not. So anyway, you definitely stood out to me with your son's comments there. And of course, the Clippers did play the Suns, and the Clippers did take care of business, 131-122. So since you relish beating the Suns so much, why don't you go ahead and take the lead here on what happened and how the Clippers got this victory?
Paul George took out the podcast beef rage on Devin Booker. Because remember, he asked Klay Thompson about how he had held up the 4 rings, and Klay was like, "Yeah, I was being petty or whatever." And then Booker was like, "Was that the answer you were looking for?" P was like, "Yeah, Booker was being weird." P was cooking. I mean, absolutely cooking. We didn't play against Kevin Durant though in that game, so we should have won. We were up by a lot. They made a little run at the end, but we took care of business. Very solid performances by Russ, Harden, Paul George. And we got across the finish line. So take that one. And yeah, of course, it's always nice to beat the Phoenix Buns.
Yeah, so of course, that was an entertaining one to watch from the Clippers' perspective. Like you said, with the Suns, it just isn't happening, right? Like, it's either Beal's out or Katie's out or Booker's out, or they're there and they're underperforming, and then it's another game where one of them's out, and kind of like the Clippers years prior, you're not seeing them on the floor, and you're like, well, I think this could work, but I'm not seeing enough of it I don't have a proof of concept. I just have a theory, and it's like, I would like to see them play 20 games together with no disruptions to really see, can they get their footing? Look at the Clippers, right? They got their footing after adding a huge piece. I think people don't realize how hard it is to add one of those pieces. It sounds like you're complaining about, being taxed when you're rich or something, but it is a problem. It's a good problem. But you got Beal, you got to figure out how that works. And if you're, 2 games on, 3 games off, it becomes tough. And these other teams, as you know, the West is jam-packed. Like, no one's going to, give you grace. They're just going to go after you, especially with those names out there. And they're struggling. I don't know. I don't right now have them as contenders, but they're on the outside looking in. But obviously, I do think they have the talent to at least make some noise later on. But right now it's nervous time in Phoenix, because they continue to underperform, and the more the weeks go by, you're not really seeing a counter argument to be like, oh no, they got it. Look at this. It's like, no, they're losing, and these teams are coming after them, and that's about it there. So yeah, that's definitely been an issue there, and we'll have to see kind of where things go with the Phoenix Suns. But just like you, I'm not really crying for the Phoenix Suns. That's one less team to worry about. That sounds great for me. I hope they miss the play-in, or they don't even make the first round, because that would be ideal. Because then I don't have to worry about Durant going Super Saiyan, in a series against me or something. I can just say, okay, he's out, cool. Let sleeping dogs lie. I'd rather take a weaker team. Let the Pelicans get in or something. All right. So I think next we have. Let me get the schedule here. I think we have the Lakers next, correct? Lakers played because you had the next Clippers game was New Orleans, and the Lakers were Miami, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure, because my dates are a little funny here. Okay, cool. This one wasn't fun. I was in attendance for this one. 110-96. Just disappointing. I think this was the lowest point in the Lakers season, in my opinion, because you had no Butler. The Lakers are on a homestand here. They had such a rough schedule in December with so many back-to-backs, a lot of tough matchups, a lot of tough games. And you thought, okay, they're home now. They're playing a Miami team that's kind of, struggling just due to injury right now. And we're at home. Take care of business. Let's do it. And they didn't. They laid an egg. 110-96. They got thoroughly outplayed the entire game. I don't think there was a moment that they looked like a good team. And this is the start of kind of a negative slide for the Lakers. Not only in the win-loss record, not only in the performance, but then you just started getting like these reports of like there's disgruntled players and free agents are asking what's going on, and so is not happy with their playing time. And I think the weirdest thing was, especially behind the scenes, the way it works is around 10 to 15 minutes after the game, we talk with the media. The media talks with the coaches and players post game, and it's always Darvin Ham first, and then likely like the star player, if you will, of that night. We'll talk, maybe a couple others, whatever, right? And not only was the game bad and it was a sour note and fans were upset and Lakers got pummeled by the Heat, it took them at least 30 minutes for someone to come out. And for the first time, at least since I've been there, it wasn't Darvingham first. They brought out Max Christie. Poor little Max Christie had to go out there.
Wow.
Max Christie had to go out there first and account for the Lakers' sins. And I'm like, and that's when I knew, again, we don't gotta, I'm gonna peel the curtain a little, but not all the way. But I'm like, something's up. Because why isn't it Ham? Why did it take twice as long? And why is it Max Christie? He's not the leader of this team. He should not be out here dealing with this. Of course, he handled it well. Ham came immediately after, so I'm not saying Cam ducked it, but a question I wish I could ask is, hey, what took you so long, bro?
Yeah.
There a conversation going on? Did you need to cool off for a minute? Like, I just found it weird. You've never been this late. And the day you were was the worst loss of the season. Yeah, and that kind of started those conversations. We've talked about this, right? Winning, just win, baby. Winning solves everything. Well, guess what? Losing exposes everything. And all it takes is a couple losses, and then so-and-so can't stand so-and-so. Player on the bench thinks they could do better than the guy who's going 0 for 7. And that's how the fracture starts, right? And, Reeves mentioned it. He talked about the vibes were off. And then he kind of clarified because he knew how that quote was going to be, taken. He's like, what I mean is the vibes are off. Like, we're frustrated that we're losing. We're cool, like, as people, like, we get along. We're just all mad because we're losing and it sucks. And I'm like, okay, cool. And, to his credit, I think that's probably true. I don't think he just said that to kind of save it. I think he was being honest about, well, the conversation we just had is we're all pissed off and we lost the game. We know we're supposed to win. We're struggling at this point. I think that was the first moment they slipped under 500 in a while. They've been up a little bit. Now that was under. And then, again, an embarrassing loss there. How much of this game did you watch? Did you watch the full game? And what are your thoughts about this whole kind of scenario with, people, regardless of whether you watch or not, people have been complaining about the rotations. People have been complaining about Ham. The team's losing, so that only amplifies it. What were your thoughts on this whole scenario here?
Probably the worst game of the season for LeBron. 6 for 18, just didn't look engaged. Anthony Davis was really good again, but Cam Reddish and Taurean Prince gave you nothing. 0 points, and not much good defense either. Mind you, this was no Jimmy Butler in this game. One thing I've noticed about the Lakers, their transition defense can be a little suspect at times. I think they don't often stop the ball high enough. Like, they'll backpedal, and all of a sudden guys are at the rim. I've noticed it the last 3 games. And I think part of that is you need just to hustle a little bit more getting back, too. Everybody needs to just do a little better job getting back. But the Heat, they were pushing the pace for a team that you don't normally think would push the pace. Kyle Lowry was like, it was clearly a point of emphasis. And just a disaster. I mean, a total disaster. But this was still when D'Lo was out, right? He hadn't come back yet.
Correct. D'Lo did not play. Let me double check, but I'm almost 100% positive because I didn't see D'Lo play. I think D'Lo's only played since D'Lo's came back, which we'll talk about in a moment. He's they've won the 2 games that he returned on. Let me just double check the box score here, make sure D'Lo wasn't there.
Yeah, D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura being out, that hurts the Laker offense. You need other guys to make shots. You need LeBron to be good, and it just wasn't enough. And Miami, you got to give them credit. You know how it is with the Heat. Even when their guys are, even when their guys are out, they still find a way. And you see the creativity of their offense. Even though they're not like a crazy motion team, they are a little more motion based than other teams. Guys like Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero being used in those kind of ways. And Duncan Robinson pleasantly has been a surprise this season in terms of putting the ball on the floor a little bit more. And then it was my first real look at Nikola Jovic. He was pretty good. But I agree. Let me ask you a question. How disappointed were you after this game? Like, these kind of disappointing losses are piling up now.
Yeah, this one was the one that I felt the most frustrated. As you know, you've mentioned it, I'm kind of more on the optimistic side. I'm more level-headed. This was one where, and I wrote about it. I'm like, they hit rock bottom. And rock bottom's a little extreme because, as a Bulls fan once told me, it could always get worse. So, it's rock bottom, being 1 game under 500. No, but I think for the year, you're supposed to be a team that's supposed to have championship aspirations. I think when the season started, they had 4th best odds to win the title. If you have 4th best odds to win the title, and I told you the roster the Lakers have, and I told you there'll be injuries, but LeBron will play all but 2 games, and Anthony Davis will miss 2 games. You'll say, oh, okay, so they probably are a top 3, top 2 seed in the West. and then I show you they're like 10th, you'd be like, what's going on? And what's going on is they're underperforming, and that's a combination, like you said, Rui's not there, D'Lo's not there, that hurts. But at the end of the day, if you're getting what you're getting from LeBron, and you're getting what you're getting from AD, and then the other teams also have injuries, it's like, come on, man, that's not acceptable. And this was probably like you said, it was the most frustrating loss of the season. There's just no, it was just unexcusable. There's just no excuse for it. You gotta win this game. It was an easy game to win on paper, and even though they did play well, the Lakers still had chances. I think they led for a moment in the third with like 2 minutes to go. So it's not like they got pummeled. They did, consistently throughout the game, but they had moments in spurts. This game was beatable. Like, you should have won this game, and you didn't. And not only did you not win it, but you played bad most of the time. I heard boos a lot. I heard a lot of the Heat fans started getting a little loud, and the Laker fans were just kind of frustrated. So well, I'm not gonna I'll cheer this team because I'm pissed off because you guys suck. So it's like it just became like a bad vibe, and I think it was the start of kind of a more negative week than positive week for the Lakers. Moving on to the Clippers here, we had Clippers against New Orleans. We both predicted a loss, and I'm sure you're happy that we were both wrong here, because the Clippers actually took care of business. New Orleans has been playing pretty good. They lost 111-95 here. You've watched quite a few New Orleans games now. What are your thoughts now that you've seen New Orleans a few times with the Clippers and the Lakers here? What are your thoughts on the team and how the Clippers played against them?
The team, my thoughts on them are that they're still a fairly dangerous team if they're healthy, but we just have more talent than them, period. And this was we finally broke our little drought against the Pelicans. They had beaten us, if you count that play-in game in 2022, 10 out of the last 11 times. And so we got our lick back big time. It was an absolute domination, 111-95, and they beat us in garbage time, outscored us in the fourth 27-19. But I thought Harden was masterful in the pick and roll. He had 13 assists. Even though he shot 2 for 7, he had 13 assists. And then Kawhi and Paul George. Like, Paul George has just been really solid since Kawhi has come back from that hip injury. He had 24 points on 60% from the field and 60 from 3. Then Kawhi had 19. And defensively, we did a really good job. But I also think the Pelicans just had a really, really bad shooting game. Like, they just missed a lot of shots they normally make. And then Zion got injured and missed the whole second half. So from there, we kind of ran away with it. Norman Powell had 13 points off the bench. Great spark. He's been excellent lately. Then Russell Westbrook, 8 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Instant energy. So much talent on this Clipper team. Super team, looking super, beating the Pelicans and the Nuggets this season. 2 teams that have given the Clippers tons of problems. We shot 42% from 3 in the game as well. And the defense was sharp.
Yeah, and the Nuggets have given everyone problems. Like, I don't think too many teams have the Nuggets number. So yeah, good wins all around. Not a good win coming up for the Lakers. Again, the next game they lost to the Grizzlies, 127-113. Again, this is another frustrating one. Ja was still here and available. This is prior to the injury he just suffered. I believe it was a tear in his shoulder, right? Is what the official injury was. Tear. Yeah, labrum tear. Yeah, that was that happened prior to this game. This game was still Ja playing and Ja being effective for the Grizzlies. This one I felt mixed on. I still think the Lakers should have won, but obviously the Grizzlies, their record was 12-23 in this game, but then that's not reflective of what they've been. They won like the first 4 or 5 with Ja, and they lost like 3 or 4 and 1-1. So they were kind of, showing signs of what they could be. And then, little lapses here and there, because again, the West is so tough. It's easy to just quickly slip there. But again, the Lakers, just another frustrating loss. 127-113. For me on this one, it was just, again, not getting enough from the rest of the guys. They only played 8 guys. So you just have the starters, and then Vando, Wood, and Christie. Wood gave you a lot, gave you 11 points. Christie didn't give you much, gave you 2. Vando didn't give you anything, 0 points, which is really rough when he plays 17 minutes. And it's not just that. Obviously, he's in there to be a defensive player, yes. But when you literally give nothing, it's just tough, because one less player for teams to worry about. They can clog the paint more. It causes more problems than just you're not scoring. It's like they also don't respect you as a scorer. And it's another you're on the wing, and it's another option that you know how it is. You've coached, you've played. Maybe the ball doesn't swing that way anymore because they're like, what's the point? You're not like being effective, and like it just disrupts everything when it's at that point. When you're a zero, it's not good. You can't play that much and be a zero unless you're an extreme specialist like a Dennis Rodman, who's like, I'm just here to get rebounds and I'm moving out of the way actually on offense, and like we're putting me in spots where I'm not in the motion. The Lakers don't have an offense that kind of works for that, so you have to be involved, especially when you're on those wings. You at least have to be able to, again, read, react, cut, pass, shoot, drive, kick. You have to be able to at least do those things and be a threat to do those things, even if you're not going to do them all. I don't expect Vando to average 15 points, but I expect him to give me 6 or 8 and to, knock down 1, 2 threes, take them. And there just wasn't much of that there. Again, this is just momentum into the negative, right? That Heat game, I thought we were going to get a big response from the Lakers, say, oh, kind of like we got with the Clipper game. I'm like, oh, they're going to respond. They were embarrassed. They're going to react. But again, shout out to the Grizzlies. They took care of business. They beat a team that was kind of down. And this wasn't as bad as the Heat loss, but it kind of started feeling like, man, like, they just can't get it together. What did you see here? Obviously, the Grizzlies, we're not going to have to talk too much about because they're kind of done. But what were your takeaways from this game?
I didn't get to watch as much of it, but I realized one thing: LeBron was really hot in the first quarter, scorching hot. But the Grizzlies were scorching hot all game, and they haven't been shooting well from three this year. And they shot 51% from three, 23 for 45. I mean, the shots they're making in the fourth were just crazy. Marcus Smart had 29, Jaren Jackson 31. They had 4 guys with 21 or more. And I have to watch the whole game to see defensive problems. Was it just weak defense?
I think people might say it's weak defense. I thought it was more they were allowing
shooting.
They were allowing certain shots and the players were knocking them down. Because that's one thing that, the Lakers are still trying to balance. They give up certain threes, but then it becomes like, well, if they're going to hit them, like you gotta adjust. And I get it's the regular season and they're doing less adjusting. All teams do this. It's about your systems. And then later on, we'll do the counters. But I think it was just another example of like, you got to counter somewhere because you're just getting killed everywhere. And it's not working, especially when the team lost a game like the one against the Heat. I really thought they needed this one and they didn't get it. And that was, to me, the most disappointing thing. It was just, I wouldn't say it was poor defense, but I will say that it was not even poor execution, but just poor reaction to the execution that was happening in front of them. And again, when you're losing, it rains, it pours, and it was just another one like that. And yeah, the teddy bears, had their picnic on us. That was for sure. Yeah. Obviously, after that, we had the big hoopla with Lakers versus the Clippers. We already talked about that. Lakers got the W, which was fantastic, at least on my end. So that was really good. And yeah, I think the banter, just really briefly on Lakers Clippers again, I think the banter was good. It's good when those two teams are good. No one likes to see when one's up and one's down. It's just like, okay, well then kind of it takes a lot of the buzz out of it. These last couple of years, Lakers Clippers is fun because legitimately you could see either team winning, even though the Clippers went on that run, and now the Lakers are starting a small one with these 2 wins because you're like, oh, they're both like interesting, good teams versus when the Lakers were super dominant and the opposite when the Clippers were going through their thing and, Kobe was out. It's like, okay, well, I still remember those Christmas Day games where it's like, I mean, who cares? Like, like what's going on here? Like, I guess. But, at least these games are good. These games are interesting. They're becoming marquee matchups each time they're happening. And we're going to get another one later this month. So that's going to be exciting. All right. I think we have one. The Clippers play Phoenix. Oh, yeah. Again, geez. How many times did you guys play Phoenix, man? Is that like...
Twice, and we beat them both times. The Buns. We got the full-on 3-headed snake, and you know what? That snake had no venom in it. Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker got owned. Again, Paul George has had some kind of vendetta against the Suns. I think it's because he really doesn't like Devin Booker, and I love when PG gets fired up like this and is the best version of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And like just being aggressive. When he catches the ball at the elbow, the mid post area, he can just rise up over the top of guys. And I loved also seeing Kawhi and KD guard each other. Like that's always just such quality hoops when they're matched up against each other. And I'm not going to lie, in the first half, KD was getting the better of him, like kind of locking him up a little bit and scoring on him in the pick and roll. But when we adjusted and started blitzing KD and Booker both, they started giving up the ball, turning the ball over at times. And James Harden had a really good game shooting the ball, 6 for 8 from the field and 3 for 4 from three. Some really good passing as well. And then Westbrook, just insane off the bench, posted up Devin Booker twice in a row and scored on him. So he was creating really good things. And the Clipper offense, it's just tough to guard. We got a lot of star power. James Harden's a great pick and roll threat, obviously, but he's got Paul George and Kawhi around him. And then Zubats just destroyed Nurkic, like just completely outplayed him. He's been playing at an extremely high level. And then Edwin, Terrence Mann is back. His 3-ball is back. He's been shooting really well in the new year. And I'm just confident now that he's going to slowly start to find the shot that we've seen the last couple of years. And now the Clippers are going to move up slowly but surely in top 3 in offensive rating because we're going to be so hard to guard. I really think so. We're going to be so hard to guard. Harden's playing at a very high level. I just checked tonight. He's shooting career high from 3 right now, 43%.
Wow. That's a guy who likes to chuck them. So
yeah, and he's shooting fewest PPG since 2012, fewest shot attempts since 2012, fewest shots made per game since 2012. So when you say it like that, it makes it sound like he's not playing well. But Harden, honestly, he's grown on me slowly but surely, Edwin. But still, we'll see. I like when I see the Clippers play against teams like the Lakers, like Phoenix, that I really want to beat, and he plays well. It makes me gain and start to like him. But then I play against the Lakers, do what he did, turn the ball over like that. I'm like, that's why I'm skeptical. So overall, though, now that that's the last Clipper game we're talking about at this point in time, I still stand by what I said. Besides that one game against the Lakers, you got the better of us. We're still one of the hottest teams in the league. We've still won 20 out of 26 games. The people are starting to take notice of this. Kawhi's playing at a high level. Paul George is playing really, really well. James is playing really well. And Westbrook just continues to be exceptional in his role off the bench and content with it. And Zubats is quietly putting up maybe fringe top 10 center performance this season. And Harden has definitely helped with that. So things are rolling. We have the Toronto Raptors on Wednesday, which we should definitely talk about their game against the Lakers, huh?
Yeah, we should. That's right. So that's the final one we had, which literally just ended like a couple hours ago. I was in attendance. That's why we've had a late night tonight with our coverage. And finally, besides the Clippers win, which obviously that was a W, but 132-131, they won by the slimmest of margins. The slimmest of margins, 1 point. Although it wasn't really a 1 point game because it was like a last second 3 that turned it into 1. So it was close, but it wasn't, the 1 point makes it seem like the final play was exciting, but honestly it wasn't. And I mean, where to begin here? Okay, we'll start with the main stuff. We'll start with the basketball and then we'll go kind of beyond that. First thing is, again, Anthony Davis. Like I said, you mentioned slowly but surely you're warming up to Harden. For me, I'm slowly but surely conceding that this might actually be the Anthony Davis team. Like, this is just ridiculous. Like, over the course of the last month, he's averaging 30 points a game. For the season, he's averaging 25 and 12. He's been consistent as heck. I think he's Defensive Player of the Year. And these offensive performances, these are not anomalies. 41 tonight. I checked. Like 2 weeks ago, he had 40. He's had 2 37-point games in the last month. So, if he's doing it every other week, he's putting up 40 pieces. And then the other nights, he's putting up 28, 29, 31, 32, 37. That's not like he's not giving you those 9-point nights anymore. That hasn't happened. It's been him doing everything except selling the popcorn in the stadium, taking this team and trying to will them to victory, and tonight he did just that. 41 points, 13, 17 from the field, only missed 4 shots, 2 for 2 from 3. And then the big number, 13 of 14 from the free throw line. For bigs, most bigs are awful at that, whether they don't practice, whether they complain about their hands, whatever. They're just awful at it. Embiid, Giannis, you go down the line, Shaq, it's a weakness. For AD, he should be embracing it every time because he has nights like this often. He just really, really good shooting from the free throw line. And tonight he was consistently making them. And it was one of the reasons the Lakers won was because he was so efficient. I would say it's the main reason they won. Without his performance, there's no way they win this game. LeBron kind of sleepwalked through most of it. He did it in the night with 22 points. Again, that kind of shows LeBron's greatness, right? You watch the game, you're like, oh, he was trash. And you're like, oh, 22, only missed like 6 shots. Like, 8 assists. It's like, oh, the stat sheet doesn't show that, but that's because LeBron can in bursts just kind of, accumulate those points and those things. And again, I'm not saying he's stat padding because that's ridiculous, especially in a game they were trailing. But it's like LeBron's so great.
What
He can
about
be
that
great
half
for
court?
minutes.
What about that blatant not shooting the half court shot at the end of the first half? That was
Right.
he's not the only person that does that though. He's shooting that 40% from 3. I don't want to ruin that.
I'll be honest, Dime. You're right. And I won't mention the meeting member I was sitting next to, but I turned to them and I said, "Did you see LeBron didn't take that shot?" And they I don't know if they were just like talking to me. They're like, "Why didn't he?" I'm like, "Oh, you don't know why he did?" Yeah, I know exactly why he didn't take that shot. He didn't take that shot exactly for the reason you mentioned. Russ does it all the time too. How many times you see Russ dribble when the
not as a Clipper, not that much yet.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's something he unlearned, but I saw him do that as a Laker a lot, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. And again, it's fine. I get it. It's a garbage shot, and it hurts your number. It's the politics of it.
What made it so funny though is that LeBron hit a logo 3 that exact half. That's what made it even funnier because he probably would have missed, but LeBron's always been really good at those long distance shots because he's so strong. It's sometimes he shoots it like it's a normal shot with like he's barely putting any more force into it when he's shooting from like that range. But
his technique looks the same from like 45 feet out as it does from like 25 feet out. And as you know, that's a weakness because just as humans, it's more energy, and then you get sloppier and you're starting to heave. He doesn't. He pretty much just squares up the same. And like you said, it's because he's got the strength already, so he doesn't have to worry about like having to exert so much more to go, that distance. So yeah, LeBron didn't have a great game, but again, it was all about AD. He was just, there's nothing to say about Anthony Davis at this point. He's getting to that point where he's put up enough of these performances this year consistently, and he's been healthy that there really isn't much to say. After the game, I'm sure you heard everyone complaining, oh, there's too many free throws for the Lakers. And obviously I was there, so I have a different perspective on it. I really felt like it was pretty normal. Again, I wish, there's so many things I wish, Dime, about people watching sports. But again, I understand the logic makes sense. Why is one team getting more foul calls than the other? That's not fair. But again, it's based on how you play the game. And if AD's driving to the basket and you keep fouling them, that's what's going to happen compared to a team that's not going to the basket as much or avoiding that contact or shooting threes. You're not going to see as much. The Raptors don't get that many free throw calls. I didn't see anything to me that was pretty disparaging. Yeah, we can argue, was it a flagrant when he popped them in the nose? Was it just an accident? This and that. Of course, we can do that for every game. I still have people telling me about a take foul from LeBron from like 3 games ago. Like, that's going to happen, right? But to me, I didn't feel like it was unfair or anything, especially late in the game. That's the part that I found funny. Like, AD hit 8 free throws in the final minute because they were literally fouling him on purpose because they were trying to get him to miss. They were playing the game, right? Trying to get him to miss so that way, they can get possession. The game was close enough where if he would have missed, 2 or 3 of them, maybe the Raptors win. So I just found that part, again, agendas don't have time for context. And it's like, well, 10 of those free throws were in the final minute, so it wasn't as big. But from you, you're a little more neutral. What did you think about that aspect of it with the officiating, the fouls, and kind of how that fourth quarter went down?
A little overblown with what Toronto is making, the big deal of, and everybody is. I think what it was is it just felt as though every 50-50 call was just going your way and they wouldn't get a break. Like, that's what made it frustrating for them. I think a lot of them were fouls. Most of them were. The first one was, as you said, the flagrant foul on Emmanuel quickly that fouled him out of the game. It was an offensive foul, but flagrant. Even your announcers, you weren't watching the broadcast, but even Stu and Billy Mack were like, I don't think that's a flagrant, but I think that may be a flagrant just by the letter of the law. He took a huge hit, though, Cam Reddish, who, by the way, was big time tonight, or big time on Tuesday night. Huge shots, especially that 3 in the fourth quarter that he made. Yeah. But he just had it going from 3 the whole game. But the ref thing, outside of that, RJ Barrett did slap down on AD when he got that and 1 in the fourth. I think what really was annoying, too, for the Raptors is some of the calls were really late, and that really can piss fans off. Like the
Sure.
Austin Reeves one, like Scotty Barnes. Here's what I will say was inconsistent. Scotty Barnes was hand checking, had the forearm on Reeves, and Reeves, whenever he gets the forearm or the hand check, he throws it up.
Yeah.
Barnes, he went at AD on that play where AD blocked him, and it was a little bit less contact, but he still kind of had the little arm on his hip, and he blocked him, and he just didn't get anything. So I think that you could argue, but it's also like the home team is always usually going to get the benefit of the call. It's not something we've never seen. I just think it is funny because despite that Minnesota game, like the Lakers have had a couple games this season, like against Phoenix, like this one, it's always the Lakers usually getting the benefit. I think that pisses people off, historically. But that being said, I think the Lakers won because of AD. I think he was a monster on both ends of the floor. He closed out the game, 8 free throws to end the game. You needed every single last one because you only won by 1. And the way he has been knocking down his jump shot lately, like against us, we didn't even mention that. He's knocking down that 18-footer. He's making his 3-ball again, which is a little scary because that can put him back into 2020 AD conversations because defensively, I think his impact is the same. I think it's just his wiggle and fluidity and athleticism that looks a little bit worse than back then. The consistency, honestly, as you've been saying, besides a little bit of not a shaky start, but there was a patch where people were like, oh, LeBron's still better. But now you're starting to see, I think he is playing at the consistency level that he was in 2020. I think what's going to be the deciding factor, if I think this will be his best year as a Laker, is that jump shot continuing to be consistent. And one thing I've enjoyed about Anthony Davis this year is I feel like he's not settling as much at all. Almost all his shots are coming in the paint. He kind of understood what he is as a player. And I think he's doing a really good job sealing deeper. So like catching the ball much closer to the basket, especially against smaller guys where he can look to just go up. How many years we complain AD's not taking advantage of mismatches enough? I think this year he's taking advantage of them more. And with LeBron, he can have some great entry passes there. And D'Angelo Russell, we didn't even mention that in the fourth quarter and the second half against us. He was big time. He just, what D'Lo's really good at? Making momentum changing shots. And I think this game overall, I don't remember too many momentum changing. Actually, you know what? He had that 5 straight point stretch in that third quarter. Put the Lakers up
3.
Yeah, from the top of the key, make it 84-78. And his passing was really good as well. I honestly think that D'Angelo Russell should be getting more minutes than he gets. Like, I think that Reeves gets a little bit too much of a preference over him. I don't know if it's because, he was drafted and homegrown. He's more on the upward trajectory and D'Lo's kind of peaked. But I really don't know. I've gone back and forth. I think Reeves going into the season, I was saying he's the third best player, but I think it's more even than people think. And I think that D'Angelo Russell, there is the whole thing about he doesn't play well against good teams, but his passing is definitely better than Reeves. And he and AD, every time they run pick and roll, it feels like they get a decent look. Like, I think D'Angelo Russell, there's still something there that can be used a little bit more in this game, even though Austin made that huge 3 towards the end and had that amazing pass to Cam Reddish where he went baseline and kicked it out. I didn't like D'Angelo Russell's body language, man. Like, it looked like he was pissed off that he wasn't playing because he had outplayed Reeves to that point. And I heard that he didn't speak to the media either. And I don't know, it's getting a little shaky. Now he's the sixth man kind of thing, which is fine in terms of like Lakers winning games. But 11 points, 5 assists for him, 50% shooting. He was good. And also Taurean Prince, I thought he was decent in this game. He was 2 for 6 from 3, but he had 11 points. Anytime you can get him in double figures and then Cam Reddish in double figures, that always spells something good. And I think LeBron in the second half, he turned it up, though, a little bit in the third quarter. It almost felt like you guys went away from AD, though, a little much in that third quarter. I was a little, looking at it from your guys' perspective, a little nervous about that. It felt like he became LeBron pick and roll over and over. Like, he dominated the ball so much more in the second half than in the first. And I think he did get going, but it was nervy, man. Siakam making those threes in the left corner in the fourth quarter, I was like, man.
Yeah.
And Barnes, he's really taken a leap this year. Like, his defensive plays were amazing. And I love that matchup with him and LeBron. And a lot of the Raptors played well. Like, Emmanuel quickly played really well. I think that's one encouraging sign for the Lakers is RJ Barrett was good. IQ was good. Barnes was good. Siakam, who they're using like a role player this year for some reason, was still good. They didn't have Jakob Poeltl, though. They started Thaddeus Young at the 5. So I'm happy. AD should be feasting on that. But still, at the end of the day, a win's a win. 2 in a row for you guys now, 19-19. And hopefully for your sake, trending in the upwards trajectory.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so much of what you said there was perfect. Yeah, AD and D'Lo, that's the best. That's the best pick and roll option, even better than LeBron and AD. LeBron and AD is obviously
Really? Is
so
that
good
like a
because
statistically proven thing, or is that just what you're thinking from
no,
your
that's
eye?
just my vibe check. But what I will say is that the reason I say that is because in a way, because D'Lo's a lesser player, it's more to AD's benefit. Versus, Bron can get going with anyone. So obviously, Bron and AD, that's awesome. But D'Lo, and again, D'Lo's a more pure distributor, so he's able to do everything. Like he always makes the right play. If he knows that AD's going to the basket with the mismatch, he's going to get the lob. If not, and he thinks he has a mismatch, he's going to do the pull up. If not, he's going to kick it back out. He's going to go back to the top of the key, reset it. Like he just always does the right thing in that scenario. He brings the best out of AD. He knows how to get himself going, and he knows how to redirect everything else. Versus LeBron, obviously LeBron's incredible, so he can just take it to the hoop. And him and AD, they give people fits with the switching. But in the scenario where LeBron doesn't feel comfortable taking the shot for whatever reason, and then AD's not open, LeBron just kind of is like, and he just kicks it back, kind of gets a little frustrated and goes back out. While D'Lo, he's that third progression in the pick and roll, D'Lo still excels at because he's more of a pure point guard, even though he hates being called a point guard because he says he's just a guard. But he's a point guard, regardless of whether he wants to be or not. And yeah, just like there's like some funny vibes going on. Like D'Lo didn't talk to the media again, and again. I mean, is it his right? Sort of, because as long as we talk to somebody, it doesn't have to be you. But it's like, okay, I get it. And I get it. He's saying, hey, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not talking to you when I play bad. I'm not talking to you when I play good. I'm not talking to you. But it just creates unnecessary tension. It leads to questions. It leads to us theorizing what's going on instead of you just being up there and just, you answer the questions and move on, right? So that's a funny thing. LeBron, he's done his availability, but in the locker room, he used to do it at the press conference. Now he's just doing it in the locker room. That's another funny thing. The body language stuff's always tricky. I try not to read too much into the body language because, again, I don't know these guys. I don't know what's going on. I don't want to start. I think something bad, and then you have the bias of your own opinion. Like, oh yeah, I don't think they like each other, and they didn't say hi. See, like I try to be careful with that, but when there's smoke, there's fire, and I'm seeing a lot of that kind of stuff, even in a win, and it's like. Yeah, the vibes aren't great. And it makes sense. This is the biggest moment in the season for the Lakers because of the trade deadline coming up and all that. If anything's going to happen, it's going to happen now. I promise you, either way, this team's vibe will be better once the trade deadline's over because they're either going to say, hey, look, we're stuck with each other, so whatever, or X players will be gone. It'll be a new thing, and then, okay, fresh start, whatever. But it is interesting, like you said, even in a win, there's a little bit of that in the air. So hopefully, again, they say winning solves everything. Hopefully, a few more wins solve it. Hopefully, either players get assurances that they're not leaving, or they see that they're not going to leave, or they're just out and like it happens and we're done and we can move on from there. But there was a little bit of that tonight. But the good news is the Lakers found a way to win, and I don't think it's affecting. Again, they're professionals. It's not. I didn't see anything on the court that gives me concern. I didn't see bickering on the court. I didn't see player clearly open and someone looking anyone off. None of that kind of stuff. So this is kind of like, the behind the scenes kind of politics of any work environment. But again, as you know, that stuff matters. You don't like someone, guess what? You may not work that well with them because there's like a vibe that's not working, even if you're still trying to be professional and do your job. So hopefully they get that together, whether that's D'Lo just feeling better about the situation or things getting better, or just someone saying, hey, answer a few questions and let's move on. Let's not make it a big story. But right now, it's going to continue being a story because he went from always talking to never talking. That's kind of suspicious. So we'll see what happens there. All right, let's go.
By the way, big Christian Wood game again.
Yeah, Christian Wood's been great. I don't want to go as far as saying he should start, but I'm not too far from there because he's been playing so well. That I'm like, what if we gave them a shift and really went big, right? They had that one game against the Clippers where they went really big, and it was like a turning point in that matchup. And I just wonder if, not giving them more minutes, but just giving them starter minutes and going huge with like LeBron, AD, Seawood, Reeves, and maybe Vando or Prince. Like, I'm curious how that would work, but again, maybe too much for Wood right now. But so far, and he's been hitting that three. That's been really nice as well. Which again, when a big shooting threes like that, that's really what makes it like, oh, this is becoming frustrating because now I gotta watch for him rolling. I gotta defend them out there. It opens the floor, creates driving lanes. That becomes the killer. It's not even about you shooting a lot of them. It's the threat that you have. It just creates more space and allows for more options. And Ham talked about that a lot too. Spacing can be for points in the paint. More space, then we drive in. It just makes it easier to do everything when things are spread out like that. But to get that, you gotta shoot your shots. You gotta make them so that way the defense respects it. And they're not like, well, whatever. I'm staying by the nail anyway. I don't care if you're gonna roll a little to the wing. I'm not gonna cover it. So yeah, okay. So only a few games to cover now since it's already Wednesday technically at the time of this recording. So here let's take a look here at the schedule. We have Clippers Raptors 7:30 on Wednesday. So they'll have to turn around after their coach went viral. He just went off.
That was epic.
He said, you know what? I'm going to earn every dollar of this $50K fine or whatever it's going to be, because he went on a rant that, would make Dime in 2020 blush, So,
Man.
So despite all that, who knows what the fine will be? We're probably going to hear something tomorrow.
Now I'm worried about the whistle that I'm worried about the whistle they might get now.
I saw one joke on Twitter. They said he had one meeting with Phil Jackson, and all of a sudden he started complaining about.
Oh my God, that's great.
That's what he learned. He's like, hey, if you lose, because Phil was the king of that. Every Lakers loss, oh, the whistle. Every Bulls loss. He was really good at getting that story out there that, hey, like, what was going on with this? And if he told them that, it really came out. So I still have the Clippers beating the Raptors. They're still like a new team, figuring out these new pieces. They're on a road trip. Yeah, the whistle might be funny, but they're also still on the road, and the Clippers are playing so well. I'm still have the Clippers winning here. How about you?
Clippers. Yep. I'll be there.
Cool. Oh, yeah. Fantastic. All right. So next game after that, again, so much Phoenix. I'm done with the Phoenix Suns, but the Lakers are not done. They'll have to play them on January 11th on Thursday at 7 o'clock. That's going to be a TNT nationally televised game. Man, I'm going to be optimistic and say the Lakers are going to win, but I'm pretty nervous because, like I said, even though with these 2 wins, we've been talking about a lot of the negative stuff, and can the Suns be good enough to kind of sneak one in here? I'm going to say no, they're going to lose. But what are your thoughts here?
This one's in Phoenix, right?
No, it's here.
Okay, Lakers.
I'll be in attendance for this one. It's in LA. Okay, cool. All right, we got the Lakers on a 3-game winning streak. Wow. Okay, I like it. Okay, then we have the Clippers heading to Memphis on Friday. It's a 5 o'clock game. I have the Clippers winning. Obviously, we already talked about John Morant and his injury. Unfortunately, I just think that's one too many things. I know they just won tonight, so shout out to them for continuing to be resilient as an organization, as players. But I mean, without Ja, I just don't see them beating a team like the Clippers. What do you think?
Yeah, taking it over the Teds.
Yes, that's right. Okay, and then the final Laker game we have here is we'll do the 2. We'll do the Monday just in case we don't record for that one. So Saturday, so second to last, we have Saturday they play another one of Dime's favorite teams, the Utah Jazz. The homestand is over. Yep. They play Utah on Saturday. Yes, sir.
They've been playing well lately, to be honest.
They have been playing well. Yeah, they just pounded the Bucks, right? That was I think yesterday's game.
They beat them up. Yeah, 132 points allowed at home by the Bucks. Jesus, but so this game's going to be in Utah, Lakers Jazz?
Yeah, in Utah. Yeah, and what was impressive, just really quickly on that Bucks Jazz game, because I watched that one, I think from the second half on, even though it was a blowout, I'm like, let me just see what happens. The Bucks did kind of put a fake comeback in the fourth, and the Jazz just responded back, and I was like, oh, wow. I'm like, okay, that impressed me because, it got down to like 9 points, and then it went back up to 18 quick, and I'm like, oh, yeah, the Jazz aren't playing around. So, yeah, that was going to be a tough one. So I'm sorry, I think I didn't hear your answer there. Who do you got? Lakers, Jazz, and Utah.
I hate to say it, Edwin. I think the Lakers should win, but I don't think they're gonna. I think Utah at home is really challenging, and they're playing well right now. I think they'll get the dub.
Yeah, you know what? I think so too. I can't predict Lakers are going to win all of these games, so I'm going to go with you there too and say that they're going to lose there. Okay, and the final game actually, because we'll probably record before the Tuesday OKC Clippers game. So the final was actually Lakers at OKC on Monday. That's going to be on NBA TV.
Clippers don't play Sunday?
Let me double check. Oh, yeah, you're right. They played the Minnesota Timberwolves.
That's
My
a big
apologies
game.
there. Yeah,
That's a big
yeah.
game.
So who do you got on that one?
I'm going to go with us. I'm really amped up for this one because the Minnesota Timberwolves are playing really well. On Tuesday night, they beat the Magic by 21 in Orlando, and Orlando's no slouch. So
Yeah. Orlando. I really like Orlando. I think Orlando.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I think Orlando's going to stay up there. People have been saying, "Oh no, they'll fall off." I'm like, I think they're going to stay top 4 in the East. I don't know where they might be on the lower end, 3-4, but I think.
Wow, really? You think they'll finish above Miami? Because now the top 4 is now the 4 teams that have been the consistent teams for a couple of years now: Philly, Miami, Milwaukee, Boston. I think it's going to end that way. 5th and 6th though, it's up for grabs. I have to give the Cavs credit though, even with Darius Garland and Evan Mobley being out, Donovan Mitchell is putting together a quietly really solid season yet again, and Jared Allen's playing really well, and they're in the mix there to still make the playoffs.
Yeah, you know what? I'm still going to say the Magic are going to make it happen. You're right. It did adjust already a little bit, but it's really close. I mean, they're 1 game behind 4, so again, it's early, so there's still a lot of movement there, and. Yeah, I think someone from New York or the Heat will dip enough that I'm going to say Magic. They'll pull it out. I'm a little nervous about it, and they are young. I tend to be late with the young teams because I'm like, look, you got to show me. But I feel like the progress has been there in terms of the work. We just haven't seen the win losses, and this is the first year where the wins are actually starting to be provided based on the progress they've been making the last couple of years. So yeah, no, I'm going to say they're gonna figure it out, and they're going to get up there.
The Knicks are 5-0 with OG Anunoby too. That's something to shout out.
They are.
But
yeah.
But
that
Clippers,
might have been the move they need to make.
Yeah, I think Clippers is a good move. Still doesn't move the needle fully for me with them, but Clippers will beat Minnesota in my opinion. I'm taking that. That's not a back-to-back, is it? You said Memphis plays us on Friday.
Yeah, you don't have any back-to-backs this week. It's Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Yeah.
We're beating them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big Timberwolves guy. I just don't like their team that much. Edwards is amazing, and I think they're a classic, great regular season team because they do bring it. But I think when they play those top teams, like we've mentioned, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, even, I think they're just going to give them trouble. And the regular season and the postseason is 2 different things, and I don't think they have a team for that. So they don't really scare me that way. So I think the Clippers will take care of business because I think they're one of those kind of teams. All right, and then the final game we'll talk about today is, again, the Lakers OKC. OKC's giving the Lakers problems. Obviously, SGA is just sensational, and the Lakers struggle when there's a dynamic guard that's like that. That's small and quick and crafty and shifty. That's the one that gives them a lot of trouble, especially if they're physical and strong. You know, SGA is not super physical, but he is really, really quick. And he also knows how to get those foul calls, as we know, talking about players who know how to kind of work the system a little bit. This one makes me nervous. You know, honestly, I'm going to say I'm going to give them the win just so they don't have a losing record this week. But that one makes me nervous. I also don't think OKC is ready this season in the playoffs. But it wouldn't surprise me if they were, because on paper, the eye test tells me they are ready. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, but they're young. They haven't been there yet. So they're an interesting team. I can't wait to see them in the playoffs. Hopefully my team doesn't have to play them at any point. I'll let someone else deal with it. But they're really, really good, and it's going to be a tough game for sure.
I'm going with Oklahoma City.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. So I think we'll wrap it up there. We're just about at the hour mark. So we'll see how the teams do there. We'll also talk, I think, a little bit about the WNBA, because there have been some movements there with personnel that we'll talk about for next week when we have a little bit more time, and also WNBA free agencies not too far away until the 21st. So next week we'll talk about it, now that we'll be, kind of a preview to what's going on there. But that's it for us today. That's the end of Basketball on Figueroa. Once again, I'm Edwin Garcia. That was Dar E N Vaziri, aka Time Dropper, and we out.